We're here with Zosia Mamet from Girls, and I wanted to start off by asking you, Zosia, what in season 3 do you think Shoshanna learnt the most in Girls? What was the big teachable moment for her?
I think there were many, but I think one of the most exciting things about being on the show as an actor is playing this very rich period in a young adult life, which is sort of like the transition from the womb, essentially, of like being a child, being sort of still a young adult in college, into the very harsh real world. And I feel like Shoshana really got her first sort of slap in the face with that last season, with her beginning the season being so wild and crazy, and then halfway through realizing that her actions actually have consequences. And so I think that that was probably the biggest life lesson, wake-up call for her, was really realizing that she has to take responsibility for herself, and sort of having this aha moment, if you will, when she realized that she ruined this wonderful relationship that she had, and that she wasn't graduating from school because of all of these choices that she had made. And I think that that can be a big realization for someone in their early 20s of like, oh, this is all on me now. So I would say that was probably the biggest one.
In some ways, of the 4 girls in the show, you're sort of the youngest, come across as quite naive and things compared to the others because of your bubbly personality, but in some ways you're probably the first character to actually make that realization about consequences.
Maybe, a little bit. I mean, we all sort of talk about sometimes how she's a bit of the moral compass of the show. I don't think people necessarily notice that because she's so often so wacky and she talks so fast. And but I do think that there is a strong depth of morality to her, and sort of a desire to be of her age. I think that she wants to learn what the right way to do things is.
Hmm. And like, how do you as an actress sort of balance that sort of very perky, talk quickly, sort of on Red Bull like Shoshana, with that sort of moral compass aspect to her?
It's definitely been a challenge. I think that was one of the most exciting and terrifying things to me about playing this part, was that I think there are many pitfalls of letting her be kind of one-dimensional, letting her be sort of ditzy or just this like on the surface creature. But I do think that she is so much deeper than that, and so it's really been like an episode by episode, scene by scene thing of like approaching everything with like, okay, how do I bring all of these aspects of her to this moment where she's saying these really ridiculous things, like with a bird on her head, and make it seem funny and light, but also realistic and interesting and intriguing. And I think it's just a matter of keeping her human, you know, reminding myself that that human beings are very diverse individuals. So like allowing all of those aspects of her to sort of trickle through in everything that we play.
What surprised you most about Shoshana over the 3 seasons of the show?
My God, what hasn't surprised me about her? I think Lena Dunham continues to surprise us at every twist and turn that she makes. And I'm continuously surprised. Last season especially, getting to do things like the Beach House episode that we filmed, or the breakup, sort of re-breakup, I guess you would call it, at the end of season 3. All of those things were shocking and exciting to me. And again, I think that's sort of the most exciting thing about what Lena does and what we get to do through her, is to play against type. You know, it's so rare as an actor that you get to have this. We're on our 4th season now. We've had these spans of time where we're playing these very specific characters, but like human beings do, we're pushing our boundaries and we're trying on different hats, and we're seeing what we like and what we don't like, and that's really exciting and challenging and scary all at the same time.
And let's talk about a few of the episodes and moments for a show from season 3. And the first one I sort of wanted to talk about was the road trip you go on with Lena Dunham and Adam Driver to pick up up Jessa from rehab. What was that sort of episode like to do? Which is like sort of I love it when girls do these sort of different types of episodes where you're on the road and you're going like, how is that sort of different for you than a regular episode?
I mean, we were in upstate New York in the middle of nowhere, and we also spent a lot of time together in a very hot car. I mean, the essence of it is always sort of the same because we travel together wherever we go as a pack, and the essence of Lena Dunham is such an umbrella, you know. But it is very exciting to sort of have a sprinkling of a different tone, like doing a road movie for an episode. So, you know, you're like, okay, we're on the road, we're with all these various different people, we're in an incredibly different setting. So that's very exciting, but I think the essential nature of the show is always the same, and that's sort of the challenge of doing something like that, of doing like a road episode or a capsule episode, if you will, of like making it something different and interesting, sort of like from our second season, the one that Lena did with Patrick Wilson. That was an incredibly different episode, and it was such a bottle episode, and it was so different, but at the same time, it was still very much our show.
Yeah, and definitely, and with that episode, you got a lot like of you three in the car together, or in the hotel room together, playing Truth or Dare, like a real opportunity to bounce off each other a lot. And I guess like there were some scenes when it was sort of, it almost seemed like you were in the middle, where some scenes it was sort of like you backing up Adam, some scenes with you and Hannah like causing trouble and him being the third wheel, and so like sort of kept on changing who the third wheel of that group of three was. Yeah. What was your favorite combo of that? Did you like it when you were sort of the odd person out with the couple, or when sort of you and Hannah?
All of it was fun. I mean, I oddly don't get to act with Lena that much. We were actually shooting a scene together the other day, and so that's always a treat. And Adam and I, until that episode last season, had really never had a scene together other than one where we were just all in it together, but we had never interacted one-on-one. And that was really, really fun to sort of have two of, like, I would say in a sense, the zaniest characters on the show getting to come head-to-head with their oddness. I mean, the scene where I asked Adam about his favorite utensil was sort of one of my favorites that we've ever gotten to do.
Yeah. And Lena directed that episode, I think.
I believe she did, yeah.
Is it like especially when you're doing scenes with Lena, and she's directing the episode too, is that different to when you have other directors or a different director on just of how it works?
In terms of like the feel of it, or the way. Do you mind saying that question? Yeah,
no, that's fine. I guess just sort of as an actress, is the feel of it having to act opposite the director of the thing.
Oh, in that way. You know, it's funny. It really doesn't feel different. Lena, I think one of the reasons she's so brilliant is that she wears all these different hats, but she moves between them so flawlessly, and you never feel like you're talking to Lena, your co-star, and then you're talking to Lena, your director, and then you're talking to her as a writer. It's really, she's really just her all the way through. And so it's not jarring, or it never takes you out of it. It really feels the same.
Now, let's talk a bit about that beach house episode, which I think is sort of the big Shoshanna scene of the season almost, or at least the one that I sort of is the sort of fulcrum point for her this season. She opens that scene where she sort of has her big sort of tirade, I guess, with, it can be fun, to be honest. Was that a fun scene for you to act?
It was so much fun. Again, like what I said before, I remember reading that scene at our table read and being terrified because it was so opposite to the character I played for so long. She was finally having this moment of being able to kind of let loose all of that vibrating tension that I think is in her all the time that makes her talk so fast. And it felt like a wonderful sort of comeuppance for her to get to explode like that, but it was also, it was definitely scary, the thought of like keeping her playing this character who is so tightly wound, and yet allowing her to have this outbreak. But it was so fun. It was such a wonderful challenge, and that whole episode was really kind of a wild and crazy experience. It was Jesse Peretz, who directed the episode. It was his house, and it was sort of like Girls Goes to Camp. We spent 2 weeks out on Long Island during just a crazy, continuous monsoon, filming this wacky episode with a dance number, and it was a really wonderful, special experience.
Yeah, and with what Shoshanna said in that sort of scene where she sort of like just lets it all, do you think that was something stuff she's been thinking for sort of ages, and she just finally got this opportunity to express it, or do you think it was a bit of a like the penny sort of dropped in that moment? Like,
no, I think it was absolutely something that I think she's somebody that so desperately wants to be liked and do the right thing, and she's constantly struggling with this like inner voice of which foot to put forward next. And I think that was very much a moment of swallowing her feelings for years with this group of friends, and then finally literally being unable emotionally and too drunk physically to hold it in any longer. And she just let it rip. And again, I think that that's speaking back to a bit of this idea of her being sort of the moral compass, that she said so many things that I think a lot of us have thought about these characters along the way, but nobody ever voices. And that was another thing I loved so much about that episode. I think speaks a lot to that period in your life, is often you have these aha moments and you act upon them once, and then that's kind of it, because change is scary and it's hard to implement in a permanent way. And so she had this wonderful gift of being able to say all these things we all thought, and then nobody ever talks about it ever again, which I thought was really great and really wonderful writing on Lena's part.
Something that is really interesting sort of about Girls is, and a lot of people I speak to should have different opinions on different characters and things like that, but in some ways I did sort of feel in that episode Shoshanna sort of became the voice of at least some of the audience of Girls.
That was, yeah, I felt that way a bit too. That was another very exciting aspect of getting to that scene.
Did you get any reactions from people about that scene, like on the street or whatever?
Not specifically about the Beach House episode, but we all get crazy reactions, and we heard sort of through the grapevine that people very much responded to that episode, which was lovely, because we worked very hard on it.
Okay, let's spend a bit of time talking about Ray. With the re-breakup, sort of the future best. How did you feel about sort of where they ended things with Ray this in season 3?
I was devastated. Alex Karpovsky is one of the only actors who can make me like legitimately feel deep sadness. Like, we end our breakup scenes, and I have to walk aside because I'm actually crying. I was so sad when they broke up the first time. I really found the relationship between those characters so endearing, and I feel like the second go round was really it was so sad in that it felt very truthful to me, in terms of the way that we as human beings at that age grasp for what is familiar when we feel ourselves changing and we feel the world around us shifting. And I think that it wasn't right for them to get back together in that moment, and that Shoshanna was really acting from a place of fear, and that she wanted to go back to something that was familiar, that she knew, to ground herself. when she felt so unmoored in her life and like she'd made all these mistakes. And good on Ray for saying no, but I thought it was so sad. I still have hope for them.
Do you said you did tell us last year that you got a bit teary when you were filming that sort of the season 2 sort of breakup scene. Was the season 3? What? Sorry.
I said I did. It's true.
Yeah, yeah. Which one was sadder? Which one did you as an actress find harder to deal with?
And they were both heartbreaking in their various ways. I think any time that there are relationships of there's ships passing in the night, for lack of a better term, it's just so sad. These two human beings who could offer so much to each other, and yet they just sort of keep missing each other in this very slight, tragic way. So the first season was so sad to me, and then I felt like they would have had so much to offer each other if Ray had just gotten himself together. And then in the second time around, it was really on Shoshanna, that she was the one who was failing in all of these ways and not seeing what was so wrong. And if she could just sort of pull herself together. So they were both devastating in their own right, I think.
And I guess I also wanted to sort of ask, with season 4, and don't tell us what's going to happen, because we don't really even, we want to find out when watching the show, but what do you sort of hope for season 4 Shoshanna might learn? Like, what's the thing you think she should learn going into season 4 with all these past?
I think the end of last season, we leave her off in such a confused state. And so I would hope for her this season that she just start to figure it out. And I think also every year I come back hoping that she learns to search for her own happiness a little bit more, as opposed to searching for what she thinks she should be doing and how she thinks she should be doing it. I always think that she's probably one of those girls who has like 17 books on her bedside of like how to do every various thing in her life, and like then the way to get connected to herself, and then like maybe a book on Pilates. And I just wish that she would eliminate some of those books and maybe read what she actually wanted to, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And like, what do you as an actress find the most challenging thing about playing Shosh?
I think just again what I mentioned before, that she on paper reads as this incredibly one-dimensional human being, and that's absolutely how I read her the first time. And what was so exciting to me about playing her was the challenge of bringing her to life. And so I think that that's something continuous that I will struggle with until Girls is done as a whole, is just sort of keeping her human and keeping her real, and keeping those dimensions inside of her, as opposed to playing her as just like a ditzy, fast-talking brunette, showing that there are reasons that she operates the way that she does, and those might be on the darker underbelly of who she is. She's not just this like smiley fast talker.
Yeah, at the end of season 1, I would have thought Shosh, in some ways, more than anything else, had no filter. She just sort of said whatever was on her mind at any time. And then in season 3, you sort of realize, oh, maybe there is some stuff that she's kept to herself. And sort of, I guess, like sort of in some ways each season we're figuring out, oh, she can be quite honest. Yep. Do you reckon there's still stuff she's sitting on that she'd just like to say? Has she got it all out there now?
Oh, I'm sure there are a million things that she sits on that she wants to say. I think that that's something that she definitely struggles with. It's something that we have addressed a bit in this 4th season, is that she is incredibly honest, and that being honest is something that's very important to her. I have a feeling that perhaps some adult figure in her early life was incredibly blunt and told her that that was very important, but that in other ways, she censors herself so intensely. I think for perhaps because she's insecure or slightly afraid of the fact that, for the most part, she's incredibly blunt, and sometimes that puts her in a bad situation.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us today, Zosia. Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
No worries, and all the best with the Emmys, all the best with Girls Season 4.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Bye.